everybody, Zee Garcia here, and welcome back to Unsung Gems. This is a series of videos in which I talk about a few games that I think deserve a little bit more love. I'm going through the alphabet doing this. Today we are talking about the letter R, and I've got 5 picks for you. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First up, I've got a little card game called Ramen. Ramen is an adorable little game, great artwork, fantastic quality. And in it, you are trying to collect ingredients for your ramen. It's a bidding, sort of a simultaneous bidding game in which you put out some ingredients and then reveal those and collect other things that are available on the table, ultimately trying to score the most points. I find the game a little bit obtuse, but very enjoyable, very attractive, like I said. It's a quick playing game that feels different from many other small sort of, 20, 30-minute card games. So if you're looking for something that stands out, or if you're just a very big fan of the artwork or ramen itself, this is one I would definitely recommend you seek out. Next up, I'm talking about Rattus Cartus. Rattus Cartus is the card game version of Rattus, and it's the rare instance in which the card game follow-up to an original board game is actually a little bit thinkier, a little bit heavier than the original Rattus. I think Rattus is an interesting and enjoyable board game, the original, with a decent dollop of luck all over it. But Rattus Cartus, I would say, is the better game. It's not as visually appealing. There's no nice map in it, but the gameplay is very interesting. You'll be using these cards, deploying your pieces to these cards, collecting resources, trying to both score as much as you can and have as many things as you can while avoiding too many of the rats. There's a hidden threshold in the game that you might slowly discover, as it is the threshold is basically spread out among several cards. So as you peek at some of these, you see how many rats are listed on them, and the total of these cards is what you do not want to go over. If you do, that's quite bad for you. So that's a big part of the game, and trying to just come underneath that while doing the best you can. It's an interesting game. Again, a little tricky to understand, a little tricky to do well in at first, but one that is enjoyable. And again, this is like a mid-weight sort of card game. Again, does things that are different than a lot of other card games of its type. So Rattus Cartus. For my third pick today, I'm talking about Rise of Cthulhu, a card game, 2-player card game, with a tug-of-war feel, very much like a Lost Cities or a Battle Line, Schaden Totten, that kind of card game. This is from the same designer as Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, so this designer clearly likes the Cthulhu mythos, but this one is very little known, this game. It came out before that pandemic did. And it's got superb artwork, very interesting options as you are trying to manipulate which cards you play out, trying to control these locations, and there's even a few artifacts and things like that that'll help you change the tides, right, and swing things your way. So if you enjoy that style of game, the head-to-head tug-of-war style games, and you're looking for something in the Cthulhu mythos or just something you maybe missed, this is a good one. It's worth seeking out. It's got some interesting play. It's a game that looks more complicated than it is once you get into it. It looks like there will be a lot happening. There really isn't a lot happening. It's clear and straightforward, but it's got a nice amount of mysterious artwork and vibe to it that helps elevate the whole thing. So, Rise of Cthulhu. Next up, another 2-player game, this time Ramen of Loxley. Ramen of Loxley here is a game in which you're going to be moving a single piece. You have one, your opponent has one. Inside this central display of tiles, you're going to be collecting these tiles, and then ultimately trying to go around the outside of this board, which is made up of smaller tiles itself, trying to complete specific patterns or specific conditions. You're trying to move as far ahead as you want to by qualifying for these things. Have 2 of this color. Have 1 of each of these. Don't have any of that. That sort of thing, right? So that's what you're trying to do. It's a very abstracted game, certainly, but it's a thinky, puzzly one. that manages to feel not too dry, not as dry as a traditional abstract game, but be very puzzly and engaging. So I think this is a good one for two players that enjoy something that is quieter, something that is very much about a little pattern recognition and sort of looking ahead and noticing, with these two tiles, I can advance past the next 3 goals. And so you're trying to be efficient that way. It's a good one. It's a good one that does not get a lot of love, and it is from Uwe Rosenberg, very famous designer, that perhaps just didn't get as much love as some of his other 2-player games like Patchwork. So if you like one of those, I think you'll like the other one. Ramen of Loxley, very good 2-player game. And then my last pick for today is certainly the most rambunctious of all of these games. This is a game called Rush and Crush. Rush and Crush is sort of a Formula D with weapons. It sort of feels that way. You are going to be racing these vehicles around the track that you build yourself and then unloading on your opponents, right? You have forward-facing weaponry. You're going to be rolling dice for that. Sometimes you can deploy things out of the back of your vehicle and hopefully mess up your opponents. It's got some very neat little dashboards that you're going to be controlling your speed, and you can mess with your weaponry and all of that. The game's a little bit clunky, I would say. But of many of these games that I cover on this this series of games, this is one that I would love to see have a second edition. Maybe cleaned up, tightened a little bit, but the game's inner workings are just very fun. The game has a vibrant core to it that is silly and rambunctious and just enjoyable. So Rush and Crush is definitely a good game if you just want to chuck some dice and blow your opponents away. So there you go, everybody. That's going to do it for this section of Unsung Gems. Let me know in the comments below, of course, some games that begin with the letter R that you are a big fan of, that you think need a little more attention. And that's going to do it. I'll see you on the next one. My name is Zee Garcia. Have a pleasant day.